Hello and welcome back to The Movies Made Us Do It. Me and Matt are back. How are you, Matt?
I'm pretty good, so yourself?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm doing all right. I realized I was having a bad week last week. I was very stressed with work. I had a load of work on, and I forgot to post The Crow. I thought I posted it, and I only noticed like literally 2 days ago. I think I posted that because I was like, I just didn't post it. I was like, okay. In my mind, I think we finished the show recording on the Friday, and then I just checked out, and I was like, it's done. That's that. Walk away.
I pressed the button, right?
yeah, I did it. It's okay. We recorded it. It's done. And then and then I was looking. It was only because I uploaded Casey's ice cream parlor on Monday. I uploaded that, and I was looking for the videos. I was like, "Where's the crow?" I was like, "Oh, it just didn't upload it." So that's up there now. But yeah, I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm. Well, we'll probably talk about the Resident Evil trailer later because that was hilarious. But there's a few trailers out at the moment. Some I'm pretty happy about. Well, happy about the Orville season 3.
I still see season 2.
Oh, dude, you need to see season 2. It's a nothing trailer, but it just makes me happy that it's coming out.
It was just based. If it's the one I've seen, I think it's just the bridge.
It's just the bridge. Yeah, it's the bridge with quotes.
Yeah.
And then I was really impressed. A trailer I thought was going to be awful. I think the new Paranormal Activity movie looks genuinely good.
I have not seen the trailer.
Oh, it looks like genuinely looks like it's going to be a good movie.
Honestly, I can't remember how many of those movies I've seen.
I think I've seen all of them now, and they got real bad.
Yeah, I think I've seen one, and that's it. I think.
Okay, so I like found footage, and I quite enjoyed the first couple. And then I kind of stuck with it because it was the movie that was guaranteed to come out every Halloween because it like literally took them a year to turn those movies around. Like,
well, we've talked about these before. There's they always seem to bring out one of those or the Conjuring or whatever, all those sort of movies, which is fine. They don't do a lot for me, but I'm happy that they exist.
Me too. But this new one looks like it's genuinely good. Like it's a reboot of the series. I think it's like a sequel reboot, but
was Katie Sackhoff in the first one?
No.
What was the one that she was in?
I have no idea. Was she in one of them?
I thought she was in. Maybe not one of those. It was
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of Katie Sackhoff horror movies.
She was in a found footage one.
Oh, right. I will have to think about that. I'm not entirely sure. That'll be worth a Google later. It's possible that I've seen it, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gotta find out.
Anyway, mixed bag for me this week. Well, actually, not a mixed bag. One film really surprised me with how good it was, and one film didn't surprise me at all and was just as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But let's start with you. What have you watched, Matt? What film do you want to start with?
No One Gets Out Alive.
No One Gets Out Alive. Yes, tell us about No One Gets Out Alive.
So, it's directed by, forgive me, I'm going to mangle this.
That's all right.
Santiago Mengahini.
Okay.
Sorry. And it stars Christina Rodallo, Joseph Palmer, Michael Mullen, Mark Mancheka.
Right.
And it's based, so it starts with, a sort of a girl in a house and getting snatched sort of thing. But the main story concerns Amber, who is an immigrant to America. I think she's from Mexico. She's from South America anyway. And she's, when you first see her, she's in a container sort of being smuggled in, or I think she's in the back of a truck sort of thing. And she comes out and she seems to have a bit of money that she's obviously been saving. So she's got a bit of money. And you see her going from hotel to hotel, sort of, staying in hotels for a bit, and then she gets a job, and she sort of makes this friend, and she finds this flyer on this board for cheap accommodation. So she goes to this incredibly gothic-looking mansion and knocks on the door where it's answered by this guy Red, who basically sort of shows her around and says, here's your room. The like the basement's off bounds.
Okay.
The office is private. It's only for girls, no boys, and all that sort of stuff. So, she sort of does her work. She's got an uncle that lives in America, and she's told this uncle that she was born in Texas, and her friend is trying to get her a fake passport so that she can prove that she was born in Texas, so that she can get this job that she's been offered, and so that she can properly settle in America. Only the friend who's getting this passport for her, she can only get one from, I think it was Ohio or something. And it's like, no, I need it. I've already told them I'm from Texas. I need to be from Texas, and she's all these things start building up, and her money's sort of dwindling as she sort of going doing all this stuff, and she gives this woman her money, and basically she starts having these dreams of this. It looks like she could have come to America before, but she stayed where she was because her mother was ill, and her mother was dying and in hospital. So she stayed with her, and she sort of, she put off having her education so that she could stay with her dying mother. And she keeps dreaming of this box. I think actually that's another thing. Actually, I did forget. At the very start, you get footage of 1960s of some guy digging in Mexico, like this sort of like ancient, like Aztec-looking temple sort of thing, and pulling out this box. And she dreams about this box. And you keep seeing sort of shadowy figures with glowing eyes sort of in the corner of the room and things. And I really love this movie.
Sounds cool.
It's really nice. What I found the really good about this movie is it's actually some of her own circumstances are scarier than the actual hauntings, if you like.
Sure.
The fact that she's sort of trapped and she can, by her circumstance, not even by the monsters, as it were. She's trapped by the fact that she's got no passport, she's got nowhere to go, and I try not to give too much away, but things happen, and it puts more pressure on her. And meanwhile, the place where she's living is getting scarier and weirder and more grotesque by the minute. I really liked it. The main performance by Christina Rodallo she's really good. I don't think I've seen her in anything previous, but she was amazing as this sort of clearly hardworking sort of girl who's just good girl who did her best by her mother, and she's just trying to make her way in America and getting almost every turn getting kicked in the teeth.
Right. Okay.
There's some really nice shots. It's suitably spooky. It's not like the best horror movie you're ever going to see, but I think for the performances and for the actual let me see how much I want to give away. Well, I think you can tell that there's something else other than the ghosts in this.
Sure. Yeah. And
it's South American sort of deity stuff, so you can pretty much gather what's going on in this house. And I'm gonna spoil something. The creature that you see, I really liked its design. Some of the CG wasn't the best I've ever seen, but it wasn't the worst either. I liked what they did with it. It's really grotesque and really suitably creepy. That
sounds cool.
I really liked it. I'm not sure I've seen anything by the director previously either. He looks like he's done a few horror movies previous. Milk, Temple. So he's done a few sort of different bits and pieces.
I recognise the male lead. I think he's been in like Manifest and a few other things. Ozark as well.
Yes, he was in. He was really good in Homeland. And,
Oh, do you know,
So,
I've still not watched Homeland.
Oh, Homeland is.
I hear it's very good. Yeah.
First sort of 2-3 seasons, phenomenal. After that, forget it.
Oh, really? It just like.
Yeah, it disintegrates into just sort of like, oh, can we just move this along now?
Oh no.
But the first 3 seasons are brilliant. I really like Homeland.
I will.
Anyway, yeah. So this really, really enjoyed it. It's did I say on that? Yeah, it's on Netflix. And I thoroughly recommend it if you want to see a nice creepy horror movie, but with a sort of a nice, you know, the sort of the actual social horrors are just as good as the actual, you know, actual horrors. I really like that, you know, because you really get there's a scene where she's sort of traveling on a train, and you can just feel, you know, not just the fact that she's scared out of her wits because of what's going on, but the fact that she's completely trapped by her circumstance.
Sure.
Really, really good. Really enjoyed it.
So now you've watched most of the Blumhouse House of Blum stuff. Is this one of those, or is this separate from those?
This is separate. This is
okay.
This is a Netflix one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or well, I don't know if it's specifically a Netflix movie, but it was.
So Netflix have it.
Yeah.
I've noticed that those when it used to be like a Netflix or Amazon exclusive or a Netflix movie, it used to mean Netflix have got the exclusive rights and finance this movie. Now it's like they mean anything they've got their hands on. Basically, they're like, well, it's kind of it's an Amazon Prime exclusive movie. It's like, well, you didn't make it though. You've just like you know.
But I think everybody was so desperate for. Just during close down that, you know, they were just selling off everything they possibly could to Netflix or Amazon, weren't they?
Yeah,
or some of the others, but.
And speaking of which, I think this is where this movie ended up. This is a film that was as bad as I thought it was going to be, unfortunately. But you know, it's been relentlessly sold to me all week, so I finally watched it. Infinite, which is on Amazon Prime.
The one with Marky Mark?
Marky Mark. Yes, a film with a somewhat interesting premise, sort of. It's based on a book, apparently, called The Reincarnationist Papers, which I might actually read, because there are elements of this film that I like in terms of its idea. So, the idea, in the movie at least, is that there's about 500 people in the world who can remember their past lives. So every time they die and they're reincarnated, they remember all of their past lives.
Nice. Yeah,
nice setup. I like it. Right. Yep. So yeah, that's the idea. Is the you know, in a kind of Highlandery way. You've got, you know, in Highlander, it's a select few immortals. In this, it's a select few people who can remember all of their past lives and have the accumulated knowledge of all of those lives. And they get their past life memories, I think, when they come of age, much like Highlander. I think is kind of a very similar thing. Although no, actually, in Highlander, you still need to be killed.
Oh yeah, not after your first kill, isn't it? That's where you get the kid in the series.
Or like, I guess like X-Men. X-Men's all like teenage mutant powers, you know, and all that. So yeah.
Adolescent stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So the movie starts off with this big, over the top chase scene, kind of ridiculous, sports cars and all that sort of stuff, you know, shooty. With a man called Bathurst and his kind of friends or team, and they're
Stuart Ledger for you.
Yes, and
that was the only reason when I saw the trailer. The only reason I was tempted by it was because it's got Stuart Ledger in it. I was like, can I really be bothered to put up with fucking Mark Wahlberg again?
So he's the no, he's not in that part of the movie. No, he's later. So he is the villain of the movie. He is the villain. Well, and he's great. I mean, he is great in everything I've ever seen him in.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
like legitimately. So this man called Bathurst, he's trying to escape, and he's talking to his partners about this thing called the egg, which has been stolen. His name's Treadway. Sorry, his name is Treadway, and you're right. So Treadway, has stolen the egg, and we don't know what the egg is yet, from Bathurst. Basically he ends up dying. But he's hidden the egg, and they don't know where the egg is. And it turns out that this is where the plot very quickly falls apart. But so I won't spoil. Well, I won't spoil too much. But effectively, Bathurst basically has. So there's this faction of people that remember all their past lives that have decided that being able to remember all of your past lives is like a massive chore and is horrible and is a curse. So it's a curse that they remember all of their past lives. So Bathurst is kind of fed up, and he reckons the way to resolve this problem is to kill absolutely all life on the planet Earth so that he can't be reincarnated as anyone ever again. That's his plan.
That sounds perfectly fair.
That's perfectly fair. Although my first thought was like, what if you just get reincarnated as an alien after that? You'd be like, oh shit. Like, fuck.
That would be brilliant. It just reminds me of that episode of Blackadder where
oh yeah,
Bob, the first episode,
yeah,
in number 2, where he goes to the old witch and says, what can I do about I've fallen in love with my manservant? And she says, oh, I'd sleep with you. Option 1 is sleep with him. Option 2 is kill him. It's like, no, I can't do that because then you have to kill yourself. Because no, I can't do that either because then you have a third option: kill everyone.
I still maintain to this day, the first series of Blackadder, Black Sheep of the series, it's still a bloody good series, series.
It's still great.
It is. But everyone always thinks about 2, 3, 4. That first series is very different, but it's very good.
It's because it's just so different from the other. I think there are so many people that have seen the others and not seen one.
I love how thoroughly unlikable he is in that series, the first series.
Prince Edmund is absolutely repulsive. He's really horrible.
But that's kind of what I love about it.
Baldric's the clever one. Which is the weird thing that doesn't. Like, I think most people would think, how is that? How is Baldric the clever one?
Well, isn't that kind of the arc of the show? Is that with further reincarnations, Blackadder becomes smarter and Baldric becomes stupider? Yeah.
I think in some cases, I think I prefer episodes from that I do from the 4th one.
Mm-hmm.
I think 4 has the most outstanding end of any of the series.
Yeah.
But no, there's so much good stuff. My favorite is 3.
Yeah. I think 3 is probably like unanimously kind of seen as probably the best. I really love 3 and 4. I love Goes Forth. I think is just
it's got some bloody great stuff.
But that 3rd series is just perfection.
I think
it's perfect.
The Prince George makes it. I think he's such a great addition.
Yeah. It's fantastic. But anyway, back to this train wreck. So Bathurst has created this device called the egg, which is somehow going to destroy all life on Earth, and we're not really explained how that works. It's just an egg. But apparently, I think it was made by. I think they said he was. I gotta be honest. I was drifting in and out of this movie. I think the idea was that he got someone or his team, someone really smart to make the egg, but they're dead, and he doesn't know how to make the egg again. So like the only version of the egg is this one version of the egg. And Bathurst is determined that that's the only way he's going to destroy all life on Earth. So Treadway's killed. The secret dies with him. They then have to wait until he's reincarnated and gets his memories back to then tell them where the egg is. So that's the setup of this movie. And of course it's Marky Mark when he's reincarnated. And he is 2020. He's suffering from supposed schizophrenia. Basically, he keeps remembering stuff from his past life, and they've diagnosed it as schizophrenia. So he's on drugs for that. When he makes a sword for a gangster, but he makes a sword. So he's made a weapon. He's made a sword for a local gangster, but of course he's made like literally a katana in the traditional methods of making a katana, because he remembers how to make katanas, and you kind of get you see that he has knowledge of a lot of things and all that. So okay, cool. And then basically he ends up getting arrested as part of that. And then word quickly gets around of this sword and what it's made of, and of course that attracts Bathurst, the bad man, and he's then rescued by the good team, and then it's the good team versus the bad team basically, and they need to find the egg.
Hang on. Why is the sword so? It's like people still make swords.
Yes, but for some reason they were like, do you realize that this sword was made in this specific way? They haven't made swords like that forever. And it's like, the police are doing a real in-depth checking of this this sword.
Did they consult what's his face from Highlander?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, basically, he gets arrested because the deal goes south, but the sword kind of, I think it's the sword tips them off that he is who he is, and they intervene. But he's rescued by this team, and then it's all like, oh, we need to find the egg before he does, or all life on Earth will be, destroyed. It's very by the numbers. It's not. I wouldn't say that it's like awful. Actually, no, it is. It's. I mean, the villain's plot is so like spectacularly stupid. Like, so you're gonna try and obliterate all life on Earth, and it's like, how do you know that you're only going to be reincarnated as people? Like, you might come back as an animal or an alien or anything. Like, you could destroy all life on Earth and be wrong.
Yeah.
And also, you'd imagine that you could probably find another way other than this one egg thing. It's the MacGuffin of the movie. But it's got I like the idea. Like, and you see some moments in this movie, like Marky Mark remembers being a Native American, I think. Or like he remembers hunting in who knows what era, and that kind of stuff's interesting. It's like, oh, that's kind of, this is an interesting idea. It's an interesting premise.
Do a lot with that. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, badly executed, with a really naff kind of plot, which makes me want to read the book, because I don't know why I feel this, but I feel like the book might not have the egg or any of that stupid nonsense in it. It might be a bit more of an interesting affair, because it feels like they've taken that idea and then gone crazy with it. I could be wrong. I've not read the book, so but I may well do, because I think the idea is a good one, but the story they've created around it is just not. And you get the typical things where it's like, look, Bathurst wants to destroy all life on Earth so that he can't be reincarnated anymore. Ridiculous overkill, but let's accept that as the narrative.
Yeah.
He gets the egg. He gets it. And then he's like, hey, you, take the egg away and test it to make sure it's okay. It's like, why don't you just do it now? What's the worst that could happen? You'll die, and then you'll get reincarnated in a couple of years. Like,
did they never really explain how the egg works? I mean, what is it, like sarin or something? Or
they don't say. It's just an egg.
Okay.
It's like a mechanical looking egg thing, and I'm assuming it's just some big bomb. That was my assumption.
Yeah.
Big bomb. Yeah, it doesn't. They don't say. It's just. It's created to end all life on the world. But they don't really explain what it does or how it does it. It just does it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
I suppose I don't really need to know it, but some sort of explanation would be nice.
It would be. Yeah, and there's kind of they kind of hint at Treadway having like almost sort of superpowers starting to manifest because of his knowledge somehow. I don't really know. Okay. There's a bit on top of a plane. It was like, what? Okay. Sure. I really can't recommend it. I don't think, I know you're not a big fan of Marky Mark, so I can't imagine you would be watching it anyway. But it was a Paramount.
Well, I was sort of tempted, but after your review, I think I'll pass.
I think it's a neat concept.
Yeah.
I do. I like the concept. I just wish that they'd not done this story with it. Like, I'd love to see a movie about people that remember all of their past incarnations and stuff. And it's weird as well, because you think in the day and age where we're so or society is so obsessed with like gender swapping, gender roles and race roles and stuff, races change throughout the movie, but genders, like, there's a love story in this movie and it's like, okay, I mean, I would have been like, well, in this reincarnation,
it's reincarnation. You can
have it male or female, and they don't do that, which seems like a bit of a missed opportunity. Because again, this is the kind of story where it would make sense.
It would make sense.
It's like, cool, that works then, doesn't it? And what an interesting story. You love each other, but you're different genders now. Like, does love go beyond gender? You know, there's an interesting story there, but you're not going to do it so far.
To be honest, that just sounds like it should have been a TV series.
Yeah, I think, like, it's frustrating. It's always more frustrating when there's something that's got like a nugget of like a good premise in there.
Yeah.
And I really like the premise of this, the idea of this.
Yeah, the idea sounds cool. I'm sure I've seen stuff before that.
Do you know?
There's got reincarnation in, but
do you know? I was watching this and thinking, like, I'm sure I've read something very similar to this before, but I've not read this book, so it must be something else. But yeah, it's a nice idea, just poorly executed, and it's very much just a kind of a dumb action movie with a nice kind of idea behind it.
Yeah.
But not really capitalized on, and can't really recommend it for that reason. But
okay.
But the cast are fine. They do the best with what they can. So yes. Anyway,
well, I did forget to mention actually when you were saying about that was a book. No One Gets Out Alive was also a book.
Oh really?
By, Adam Neville.
Okay.
And the book's actually set in England. It's set in I think Birmingham Bedsit, which.
Oh right.
So, and by the sounds of the book, I wouldn't mind reading the book as well. So yeah, that's another book that I might have to add as well.
Great. So. What else have you been watching?
I am going to go with Till Death.
Till Death.
Yes. So it's directed by S.K. Dale.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars Megan Fox.
Yes, this is one of the movies that Netflix has been relentlessly telling me about. They've been really big this year, and I love it. I love it, so I'm not complaining. But they've been very big this year in the lead up to October to push their like, hey, we've got horror coming up in October.
Yes,
it's been great.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, me too. I'm not complaining. I like it. Yeah.
So it's also starring Ayon McKen, Callan Mulvey, and Jack Roth. So this is so Megan Fox is married to this lawyer, and she's having an affair with one of the guys that works under her husband, and she sort of when you sort of first see her, she's with this guy. I can't remember what his name is now. Tom, played by Amel Amin, and she says, "I can't do this. I need to go," and she's like, "It's my wedding anniversary," and you're like, "Wow, that's really bad." So she goes to her husband's place of work, sort of thing, and in his office there's a file on his desk, which is her file, and it's got a picture of her all beaten up, and it's got a picture of this Bobby Ray, played by Callan Mulvey. And it sort of reveals that at some point she was attacked by this guy, and she blinded him, but she got stabbed, and she got sort of very badly hurt. And the guy that was on the case then became her husband, the attorney, the district attorney, or I think he's assistant district attorney, became her husband. And he comes in and sort of says happy honeymoon and all that sort of stuff. Not honeymoon, happy anniversary. And they go to this restaurant, and they're clearly a very unhappy couple. He's creepy as fuck. I mean, he turns up and he's got villain written all over him. It's that sort of like.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, they might need to tone that down a bit, but he's totally fucking a real horrible creep from the get go. As soon as he comes through the bloody door, so they go to this restaurant. All this, this unhappy meal happens. He puts this necklace around. He gives her this necklace. She gives him Super Bowl tickets, even though apparently they said they weren't doing stuff. And then they sort of leave, and he said, "There's a blindfold in your pocket. I'm going to take you somewhere special." And she's like, "Really not?" She doesn't want to do this, but
no.
Good. Anyway, so she puts the blindfold on. She gets in the car, and they drive. They drive off, and they drive for sort of like an hour or so. And she's like, "I go and take this blindfold off now. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to, you know." And he's like, "Oh, it's a surprise. Don't worry. It's all good." And she eventually takes the blindfold off, and she's like, "They're at their boathouse, which is like in the middle of nowhere. Like it's all sort of middle of winter. It's all snow and ice everywhere." And they go in to the house. They sort of have like. They kind of make up. They go into this. She goes into this sort of room, which looks like a dark room, and there are pictures of her and him. And he says, "Oh, you know, I miss the good times and all that sort of stuff."
Mm.
And they sort of make up, and then they go upstairs and they have sex. And the next morning, she wakes up, and he's sort of sat next to her, and she discovers that she's handcuffed to him for some reason. She's like, "What the fuck's going on?" And he says, "It's all going wrong. You didn't, you know, I knew that you'd been seeing this guy." And then he proceeds to shoot himself.
Okay.
So she is now.
So she's cuffed to him.
She's
Okay.
She's now chained to this dead body.
What is that movie with the woman chained to the bed? Oh.
It's like Stephen King one.
Yeah. They go away somewhere, and then he has a heart attack, and she's just left there.
He has a heart attack on top of her.
It sounds very similar, but kind of similar, I guess.
It's not, because it's not that sort of. I did think of that. I can't remember what the bloody movie it's called, but I know what you mean. So she basically then searches the house to try and find a way to get out of this thing. She goes to the sort of the closet, and the only thing in the closet is her wedding dress.
Okay.
And a safe. So I thought, quite cleverly, she puts the body on her wedding dress so that she can drag it around, which I thought, actually, that's all right. And then she the shirt that he was wearing, she basically, you don't see it, but she turns it. She obviously takes it off of him along the chain and turns it inside out and puts it on herself. And it's actually quite sort of cool if you notice that her buttons are inside. And I thought, oh, that's actually quite cool. I like that. That's good. So she's basically now running around in this shirt, and I think she puts his trousers on as well. She puts his trousers on as well, and she goes to the sort of kitchen. There are like all the cutlery's gone, anything that she can basically use is completely gone.
Okay.
She goes to the cellar. There's no tools in the cellar. I mean, to be fair, I was looking around and I was thinking, okay, there's a vase there. You could break that.
Yeah.
But she doesn't anyway. So through a series of other things, it turns out that the guy who attacked her, he was basically released from prison, and from what happens then, it turns out that her husband was something was dodgy. He was doing dodgy, really bad sort of trial stuff, like faking evidence, I think, and stuff like that. So basically, that's why he's like, "Fuck this! I'm going down, and I'm going to take you with me," sort of thing.
Okay.
So, again, I'm not going to sort of spoil too much, but obviously the bad guy turns up. These two people turn up, and they obviously want what's in the safe, but he wants revenge on her. And basically, what happens is you get this great cat and mouse. Get him in this. So you've got this. It's not even a massive house. It's a house, and there's like there's like there's a shed and a garage, and like a little boathouse at the bottom, and it's sort of her running around trying to avoid them, and them trying to find her, and trying to get into this sort of safe, and her trying to get free of this bloody corpse that she's got, attached to her. And I've seen a lot of people shit on this movie, mainly for Megan Fox, and people have got a problem with Megan Fox, and I think it's because
I think she's said some pretty horrendous things, hasn't she? But as an actress, she's all right. She's okay. She's not amazing.
No, she's not amazing. But I think she gets a lot of shit, basically because I think she's terribly pretty, and I think a lot of people think that she's got where she is on that alone. And I think, well, that may may be partially true, but she's actually not
welcome to most of Hollywood.
Exactly. She's actually really good in this. I thought she was great. One of the funny things that I think it was hilarious is she's got flawless makeup on throughout the whole movie.
Oh, right.
It's hilarious. but it's like, okay, I mean, she gets like blood over her and she washes herself at least, I think, twice in this movie.
Right.
And she's still
the mascara
got
never
really
runs.
great makeup on. which is really bad. The two bad guys.
Gerald's Game, that was what it was called.
Gerald's Game, yes, that's the one.
It's on Netflix. I just checked Netflix. I know. I've seen it on Netflix.
Yeah, because that one's actually spooky. That one's got like weird stuff in it. So, but this isn't got this. This is much more of a sort of thriller horror. But I really liked it. She does some really nice there's some nice little things, and I think I was genuinely sort of like, with her when stuff was happening, and you were like, oh fuck, and it was really genuinely thrilling when she gets away or she does something sort of clever to get away from them, and I really enjoyed it. Again, it's not the best movie ever, but it's a pretty solid, I think, well written thriller. There's some sort of slightly ropey dialogue,
sure,
but overall I think most of the scenes there's some really nice shots. There's one particular shot I really thought was nice of just basically looking down on her after she's pulled the cord. She goes down into the cellar to find sort of tools, and finds that it's all completely empty, and then she has to drag him back up the stairs again, and when she sort of eventually, after a sort of fall, gets him up to the top, she sort of just completely collapses, and there's this really good looking down shot on her. And there's a nice shot later on when we're circling the villains, which I thought was really cool. I mean, nothing special or anything, but just nicely done in the movie.
Yeah,
I would recommend it. I think it's a really nice thriller, real nice tense moments. I thought Megan Fox was really good in it. She, if you don't like Megan Fox, then fair enough. I completely understand. But I thought she was good. She was a nice performance, and I was really enjoyable. And she's not a Mary Sue or anything. She gets hurt quite a lot. I would say they are in the middle of the snow, and she's got barefoot for most of it. She probably would have died
losing her feet at least.
Yeah, she probably would have died of hypothermia at some by the end. But I really enjoyed it. I definitely recommend it. It's a nice.
Sounds fun. I'll give it a go. Well, I was surprised by this film. This was a better film than I expected.
Okay.
And I mainly only watched it because a friend of mine who I respect their film opinion, went to school with him, and we often had agreeing tastes in films. Said it was really good, and I was like, okay, if you're saying it's really good, I'll give it a go. And it was really surprisingly good, and that is Free Guy.
Oh, nice. I wanted to see
I didn't want to see this. I thought the trailer looked kind of rubbish. But honestly, Free Guy, directed by Sean Levy, is a lot of fun. And not only is it a lot of fun, it is very well, for the most part, written. And it's actually a little deeper and a little more heartfelt than I was expecting from the trailer. The trailer makes it out just to be a silly comedy, and there's certainly a lot of comedy in the movie by its very nature, but there is an underlying lovely kind of story and message going on, and I really enjoyed it. So Guy, played by Ryan Reynolds, he's basically being Ryan Reynolds. He's being like, Pikachu Ryan Reynolds as opposed to Deadpool Ryan Reynolds in this movie. He plays Guy, who is an NPC in an open world video game called Free City. Yeah, it's basically, yes, it's effectively Grand Theft Auto, and he plays an NPC. So the NPCs all have their routines, and he just follows his routines. So he wakes up in the morning. He's a bank clerk. He wakes up in the morning. He goes and gets the same coffee every day. He then goes to the bank every day. The bank then gets robbed every day, and then basically he goes through this cycle every day, and he's perfectly happy in his life because that's all he knows and that's what he does. And there's some quite funny scenes when like the bank gets robbed. They're totally calm about it. The NPCs, they're just like, oh cool, and they're talking to each other while they're on the floor, being like held hostage and stuff because they're just like, it's just a normal day. They say hi to some another NPC who's just got thrown through a window and stuff. It's just all like that's normal to them. And also I should say that there are. Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. So basically, one day, a guy sees so the movie makes it very clear immediately. In fact, the movie opens with Guy's narration talking about how cool the heroes are of Free City, and the heroes are basically the players. So the players in Free City are basically running amok like you do if you've ever played Grand Theft Auto Online. It's basically that. It's chaos. Things are blowing up.
I've not played an awful lot of online stuff, but whenever I have, I basically get murdered all the time.
Yes, so that's what's going on.
This isn't fun.
No, and that's why I don't really play those games online. But that's basically what Free City is. It's constant warfare, constant robberies, violence, and all of that stuff. But basically, one day, Guy sees the girl of his dreams, and the girl of his dreams is an actual player. Well, not that he knows that; it's an actual player. And because of his love for her, he ends up changing his program. Effectively, he becomes. Oh, I don't know what to. I think I can. Well,
I think we can see. We've seen the trailer tells you that basically he obviously becomes like. Not, I would say, almost sentient, I guess.
Well, this is the thing. So, I'm going to go into some mild spoilers. I don't think these spoilers will ruin your enjoyment of the film, but if you want to skip ahead 10 minutes or 5 minutes, I guess, go ahead. So, mild spoilers. There is a second plot to this film. The second plot effectively revolves around two programmers. And they came up with this... Millie is her name. So it's Millie and
played by the amazing Jodie Comer.
Yeah, she's amazing in this as well. She is genuinely amazing in this. And I forget the guy's name. But anyway, there's a couple, a guy and a girl, and they created this world, right? And it was going to be an open world game where you didn't do anything. It was an open world game where there were really sophisticated NPCs who grew and learnt and changed, and they built the world. So basically you'd watch the world, or you'd kind of walk around in it, but you wouldn't actually do anything. You just watch them and see their lives and see what they're doing. And effectively they believed that their code was stolen and put in to build Free City. So Millie is in the game playing Molotov Girl. She has basically she's in the game trying to find the code for their game to prove. She's got a lawsuit against the owner of the company, Antoine, who is played by Taika Waititi, who, shock horror, plays a really good asshole. He's really good at that.
Oh dear!
Yeah, I mean, it's such a shocking surprise. He's really good at playing a wanker. So yeah. Perfectly cast. So she's basically there trying to find the code. And yeah, so slight spoiler, it turns out that Guy is one of those NPCs from the original game, reskinned and obviously changed to be in Free City. But not only that, he's not just that. He is actually an artificial intelligence now. He is self-aware. He is like actually a self-aware thing. He's a life now. He actually has a life. And obviously they come to realize this, and then it's kind of saving Free City, because Free City is going to be deleted and Free City 2 is about to be made, and it becomes quite a touching story. And I was very surprised, and I don't want to say much more than that, other than, and I think you can get most of that from the trailer anyway.
Yeah.
But there is a lovely underlying story. This movie keeps its inspirations well and truly. It proudly displays them. I mean, it's Tron, it's The Truman Show, it's They Live. Because players have sunglasses. All the players have sunglasses, and that's basically gives them their HUD. Is the sunglasses. So when he puts sunglasses on, he sees all of the things that you can collect and do.
You know, the trailer, it reveals all the.
But it's really charming, and it's got some real heart. This movie, and it's really funny. I mean, I'm not going to say it, like, there are some really funny moments in the movie because he's like a really nice guy. He's programmed to just be a really nice guy, and so. He's told by Millie that he should level up because this is the thing, for most of the movie they don't realize that he's actually an NPC. The world and basically he becomes like a sensation around the world, an internet sensation, but they all think he's a player who has stolen a skin of one of the characters in game, which should be impossible, but they think he's stolen an NPC's character model. And it's actually a player. So the world thinks he's a player and they love him. So does she. She thinks he's a player as well. And she says, oh, you need to level up because she thinks he's just a moron. So, of course, he goes about leveling up. But because he's a nice guy, he levels up by only doing nice things. So he's like just helping people all the time. He's like a hero. But yeah, it's a really touching... Like, it's got some real heart, this movie. I was surprised at how much heart it had towards the end. And it is really funny in places. There are some amazing cameos that I will not spoil. There's like 3 or 4 cameos that come to mind. A few that are voice only, where it's like people in masks, but like obviously... Because obviously the people's avatars are completely different in real life. Like, you'll have a small girl who's playing the game, and then she's her voice actor, or maybe the actor, I don't think they would have got them on set, but the voice actor is a very tough guy actor. So it's funny stuff like that. There's a bit, because it's now, obviously, I'm guessing this was made by Fox, but obviously owned by Disney now.
Right.
There are a couple of Disney references in here, there was one that actually made me laugh out loud. It was fantastic. I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it, but it was really funny. I was like, that was fantastic. There are some really good cameos and some really good nods to other things. But yeah, most of all, I was just surprised it's pretty well written and it's got some real heart. I really, really enjoyed it. It was surprisingly good. So yeah, that's.
I mean, I'm definitely going to watch it anyway because I did like the trailers, and I thought, Ryan Reynolds is another one of those guys who basically plays the same character in almost everything, but I still like him, so it's fine.
And there are a couple of quite a few lines in this movie where you're like, clearly you just let Ryan Reynolds do the Ryan Reynolds thing. But that's fine. I mean, we're from the age of Bill Murray and co. When it's like, just let Bill Murray just be Bill Murray. That's fine, you know. Yeah. And similar rules seem to apply to Ryan Reynolds. I think he just like, they're like, how would you sarcastically reply to this line? Go for it, you know. But yeah, I was genuinely surprised at how good this film was. And I don't know if you've seen Dude yet, but that was...
I have seen Dude.
That's funny.
They released a trailer, which was just Dude.
Just Dude. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, he's great. So they later in the movie, they're like... They can't use any NPCs towards the end because Guy's basically convinced all the NPCs to go on strike, so no one's helping. So they put Dude in, but Dude is like unfinished. They've like started building him, but they haven't finished yet. And Anton's like, get him in the game. Like, get him in the game. We need to stop Guy now. Get him in the game. So they bring him in, but he's not finished. So like he like walks up to him and he's like, catchphrase, because he's not got a catchphrase. So it's like just he's got like filler. It's like he's got like you know, like fix me code in there where it's like catchphrase, like, you know, someone needs to put a catchphrase in there but they haven't, so he just walks around like catchphrase. It's hilarious. It's really funny, really good. I'm genuinely impressed by it. So I can't wait until you've watched it. We can have a talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah. But yes, that was Free Guy, and I highly recommend it.
Sweet.
So, what else have you been watching?
Let's do the first of the Blumhouse ones. So, Bingo Hell.
Bingo Hell.
Directed by Gigi Sol Guerrero, starring Adriana Barazia, L. Scott Cadwell, and Richard Brake, who... I mean, Richard Brake just plays villains, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of his standard thing. So you're basically this movie basically in the little sort of rundown community of Oak Springs, and you've got Lupita and Dolores, who are these um, older ladies who sort of especially Lupita. She seems to sort of she keeps the community together. She's there's gentrification going on.
Okay.
And one of the guy who owns the bingo hall is sold out. He sold the bingo hall and hasn't told anybody. And then something very weird happens to him. And I mean, I won't go into what happens to him, but something horrible happens to him, and basically the rest of the town doesn't know what any of this, but they go to the bingo hall as usual, and they talk about how awful it is, but how that they've struggled through, and you get these weird hints that I don't think they ever really properly explain. But at some point in the past, Lupita and Dolores, I think, did something that was like amazing to keep this town going, and
right.
they hint at it, and Lupita seems to have injuries and things from like some event, which I'm pretty sure they never really explain. But basically, the gambling, the bingo hall gets taken over, and it's this guy who calls himself Mr. Big, obviously played by Richard Brake, and he souped up the bingo hall, and the prizes are really, really good, but unbeknownst to them at first, anybody who wins these prizes, something awful happens to.
Right.
So you get this sort of, them trying to sort of keep Lupita trying to keep this community together, but fight this guy who is clearly not normal. She is great. She's this sort of like cigar chomping badass who's she's really the heart of this community, even though I think sometimes the community resent her, because I think some of them just want to like sell up and go away, but she's almost like a busybody that means well, but sometimes can be a bit abrasive to them, and sometimes they fight and stuff. I did enjoy this movie, but it's tonally fucking all over the place. So the sort of the start, it kind of starts off it's almost like a sort of soap opera comedy.
Okay.
And you've got this sort of like really abrasive sort of jolly tune that goes around that makes it like some sort of like wacky 80s comedy.
Right.
And then you get moments where like Dolores' grandkid, who's sort of like running off the rails, he's talking to I can't remember what the bloke's name is. Eric. He's talking to Eric, who's like, Eric seems to be the only sort of kind of 30-ish, late 20s-year-old bloke that seems to be in this town. And he's like, I think everybody else has either died or gone away, sort of thing.
Right.
And he, there's this conversation that they have, and he like, and it's like really sort of deep and meaningful conversation about how drugs are bad, and you can overcome these sorts of things. And it's like, wow, this is not the tone of the beginning of this movie. And then when you get the horror bits, there are some really like nasty horror stuff. And it's like, okay, right, how does these things fit together properly? And they kind of don't, but they sort of do. It is very jarring at times, especially when they do the sort of the serious talk stuff, and you're like, okay, and then it goes a bit wacky again, and you're like, right, okay, I think you should probably pick a tone wacky or
I think
proper horror.
Yeah, a lot of films seem to have tone issues at the moment. It's odd.
Yeah, the sort of the deaths are quite nice and grisly, and the sort of it's kind of like they're sort of they've got their money and they're sort of hallucinating how good they've got it.
Yeah.
And, meanwhile things are horrible things are happening to them. So you get that, and I really liked the character of Lupita. I thought she was great. The sort of these older ladies, that like Dolores and her, I thought they were really like fun and charming, and they're great. Some of the dialogue is terrible, but overall it was an okay horror movie, and I guess I would kind of I would kind of say, yeah, watch it, but I wouldn't say go out of your way.
It's interesting because I remember the first round of these Blumhouse movies were a bit hit and miss as well. Like they were kind of
really were.
Some were really good, and then some were really sort of rubbish, and then some were like medium, in the middle somewhere. So
I think so. From what I've seen of, because they've got 2 more, I think came out yesterday actually, which I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I think it's.
I think they did 4 last time, wasn't it? Was it 4, 6 last time?
Mansion and Madras, I think Madrasa, I think are the ones that came out yesterday, which I haven't seen. But these ones actually, unlike last year, these all look like proper horror movies.
Sure, yeah, because a couple last year were not even horror movies. They were like,
Yeah, the ones last year sound to me like they were appropriated.
Yeah,
like they didn't quite know what to do with them, and they thought, well,
shove them in there.
Got horror tones. Let's put in that. And I think this time they all, I think, are genuine horror movies. And I'd kind of say I'd almost recommend it if you want to see, a sort of weird horror movie where the sort of the main cast is mostly older people, which is quite good. And I think that the Mansion, which came out yesterday, that's about that's got Barbara Hershey in it, and that's about horror at old people's home. So
that's cool.
Yeah, they've gone for there's some different stuff. I mean, it's like I said.
It sounds like Bubba Hotep was the first place my mind went when you said that.
I love Bubba.
So
Hotep.
do I.
I really wish they would do Bubba Nosferatu.
That would have been fantastic.
I mean, there's still time.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter if what's his face gets.
No, Bruce Campbell. The older he gets, the finer that is. It's like less makeup.
The more it works.
Yeah.
I really hope they do.
I would love that.
Day, maybe. I mean, the thing is these days when you've got like sequels coming like 30 years after movies, it can still happen. At some point. So I'm still hopeful for that. But Bigger Hell, it was okay. It was good. It had some nice little gruesome moments in it. To be honest, Richard Brake is just playing the sort of villain he's played a lot. It's just this nasty, slimy sort of character that's corrupting all the sort of people of this this little town.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all right. It's good enough. It's not too bad.
Cool. Well, what about the other one though?
So the other one,
Black as Night.
It's Black as Night, directed by Marathi Ligo, starring Aisha Cooper, Mason Beecham, Fabrizio Guido, and Abigail. And it's also got, which the one thing that truly elevates this movie, it's also got Keith David in it. So that
nice.
You've got a little bit of class in it.
Yeah.
So this is it's set in New Orleans, and it's in the sort of the part that's still reeling from Katrina, and it's a sort of projects area that's sort of really down on it's completely down on its luck, and it's it's an awful place that basically just consists of mostly junkies and sellers, drug dealers, and you're introduced to Aisha's character. doesn't actually say what she's called, and I can't remember what she's called off the top of my head. That's weird. You're introduced to. Is her name is Aisha? I think it's Aisha. She's this young schoolgirl with her best friend Fabrizio. Again, this is really annoying. They actually don't have their character names on their thing, and I can't remember what they were called. Anyway, basically he's this sort of gay Hispanic guy, and they're it's sort of summer holidays, and they make a weird sort of point out that she grew breasts this year, which I thought was odd, but fine. And they they're dealing with the usual teenage stuff. He's got a scholarship to Texas, but I think he's too scared to go. So he said no. New Orleans couldn't do without me, sort of thing. He says, and they they go to this party, and while she's walking home from this party, she sees this homeless guy getting attacked by vampires.
Right.
And she intervenes and gets attacked herself. And then a car turns up, and these vampires sort of run away and leave her and take off this homeless guy. She then basically she's got a wound, and what I did think was quite funny. She thinks that she's going to turn, so she goes home and she boards that she covers all the windows and stuff, and there is a nice little bit where her dad comes home and sort of says, well, why have you put paper all over
the hell are you doing?
Windows and stuff, and she's like, no reason, sort of thing, and he sort of tears. This is kind of a spoiler, but he tears the sort of the paper off, and she's like expecting to disintegrate, and nothing happens. And she's like, oh, okay. Basically, from there, she sort of she goes to her friend, and he first of all he doesn't believe her, and you get this sort of thing where her mother, after Katrina, she sort of had kind of like a breakdown. And now she lives in this awful area. I can't remember what the bloody area is called. It's like the Oxbury or something like that it's called. And she kind of lives there separate from her family. And it's kind of for her own choice. She kind of, she still loves them and stuff, but she doesn't want to go home because she obviously she's still a junkie.
Yeah.
And they go to sort of immediately she says, oh yeah, there are vampires and they're feeding on homeless people. It's like, okay, how do you know that? You've seen like one vampire attack on one homeless person, but you've come to the conclusion that they're attacking homeless people. Anyway, she goes to see her mother and something, and
I mean, I guess you might be like, yeah, maybe they're attacking homeless people,
Yeah, I mean,
maybe this is like. You're right. It's quite a jump to go. They're attacking only exclusively homeless people, because I've seen that once. But yeah.
There's a couple of times where they sort of leap to conclusions that you're like, okay, fine.
And it turns out to be right. But
yeah. So they I'm not going to spoil too much, but she goes to see this girl played by Abigail, who she's into vampire fan fiction and vampire novels, and she runs this vampire book club in this old church, and she goes to her to sort of like find information on vampires and stuff, and they basically they think, oh right, well this person is the head vampire, so they're gonna go and kill this. They find a vampire and they interrogate him, and they just discover that who they think is the head vampire.
Right.
And they come up with this plan, and they do this, and you think, I'm sure there were better things that you could have done than this plan that you've got. It's really weird, but okay. And there's a voiceover from the main actress, which is actually at times quite fun and quite good. And the main actress is pretty good. I don't for a minute believe that she's 16. I think she's like 28 or something. So there's that, which is weird. And they do some sort of like things get revealed, which I won't sort of spoil. But then they don't do anything with it. They're like, okay, so that happened. This exists. Why don't they do that? They make this decision at the end, which I'm not going to spoil. But they did make this decision at the end. And they go and do this sort of thing, and they don't use the sort of resource that they could have used. Let's put it that way, right?
Okay.
And you just sort of think, well, why would you do that? That's fucking stupid. But okay. Again, I don't want to spoil stuff, but Keith David's great. He hands it up in the role that he's given.
Of course.
I liked the fact that this was a story about this the put upon of New Orleans.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
And it's hard to think that bloody Katrina was 15 years ago now.
Oh yeah, they yeah.
Wow, how the hell is it?
It's
and the
awful.
fact that New Orleans is still fucked.
Yep.
From that 15 fucking years ago is just fucking criminal.
Yeah.
It's utterly horrible.
It is absolutely horrendous.
It was nice to have a vampire movie, similarly to a vampire movie that was last year, which I forget. I think it was a Netflix one that I forget the name of, which was basically kind of like Lost Boys, but in sort of in the sort of a ghetto area with gentrification. It was a similar sort of premise, but it was nice to sort of see a different sort of take on the vampire stuff. It was kind of enjoyable in places. There were some very weird decisions that they made that I just thought they could have written that a little better. Some of the dialogue is bloody appalling. I don't spend any time hanging around teenagers. I haven't spent time hanging around teenagers really
since you were one. Yeah.
So I don't, but I'm not convinced that some of the dialogue they have for these kids is how kids speak. Maybe that's just because I'm ignorant about.
Yeah, maybe.
Some of it felt very, like some of it felt like adults writing teenage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dialogue, if you know what I mean. Some of the performances were a bit ropey. Some of them were okay. I mean, the main actress, for the majority, she was actually really good. And then occasionally she'd say something and you'd be like, oh, that was a bit ropey, but fine. It's not a great movie. I think Bingo Hell was slightly better.
So it's off to a slightly ropey start, I think.
It's not. It's not a great start, but I mean, I guess.
Well,
as a vampire movie, I guess I could recommend it just as a sort of a nice different sort of take on where they are and what's going on, the wider issues that are going on.
There were some gems in the Blumhouse stuff last time, so hopefully we'll get to some stronger movies.
Yeah, I'm hoping the next two are going to be better.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the next one's got Barbara Hershey in it, so you think that's at least a bonus. But yeah, I mean, I would recommend it to sort of vampire fans.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's an okay horror. It has its moments. There are some genuinely funny bits in it, and there are some sort of nice grisly stuff. And I do like the sort of there's it's not really spoiling anything. It's a slight spoiler. There's one bit where they're in her house after a few things have kicked off, and the vampire fangirl. They're in the house and they're just like banging on the door, and she's going, "They can't come in. We haven't invited them. You can't come in. They haven't invited them." And she keeps saying it, and then they just jump through the window. And I thought that was funny.
That's great.
Because I like the fact that she's got she's got all the sort of information. Like, I mean, it's the same as the stuff that I have. I mean, I can list off many things that are rules.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what you're going by. So it's that sort of thing. So
it's always nice. Not even, I guess it's not even refreshing anymore. It's become more and more kind of popular to do that. But I always do find it a bit refreshing. Like I can't stand watching like zombie movies where no one knows what a zombie is. It's like, really? So in this universe, no one's ever seen any zombie movie or or media. Same with vampires.
Exactly. And anybody who's ever played a bloody
game or something
is knows what to do with a zombie.
So it's kind of nice when someone's like, "Hey, these are you
can get away with it if it's a period."
Sure, absolutely.
I would say that.
Absolutely.
If you're setting it, I think up to, I would say, the 70s, maybe you could get away with it. I think anytime after the 80s, I think you're pushing it
with zombies for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
Obviously, vampires and things were believed at points in history, so depending on when you did it. But yeah, that's nice. I like this. Someone's
that's why you get so many different rules for vampires, because so many, almost every country has a legend of a vampire.
Yeah.
In some form or another, and they've all got their own little, rules for them, and little, like Chinese vampires, you can chase them off with noise, and like there are some vampires that. Well, one of my favourite things, I know I've said this before, one of my favourite things, and I can't remember which one it is, it might be one of the Romanian ones, is if vampires are obsessed with things, and if you get like a handful of rice or a handful of beans and throw it down in front of a vampire will stop and count those beans.
Do you think that Sesame Street was aware of that?
I think maybe. Because
that's kind of cool. That if that's the case, I never knew that. I never knew of that that kind of part of the mythology. And if the writers have,
it's a very specific place that one comes from.
That's cool.
It's stuff like steaks.
God, that would be like such an anticlimax to a movie if they did that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna
throw some rice on the floor,
and then run away, and you have to.
Or no, I like the idea that the vampire's kind of stalking up to this person, the potential victim, and they throw the rice on the floor, and the vampire's still coming towards them, but then it looks at the floor, and the other person's like, "You gonna count that?" What are you gonna do? And you can see he's like, the vampire's really trying to just bite her, but he's like, I have to count that rice. I just have to count it.
I mean, the stakes in the thing that there's one of the ones I do like. I think I'm pretty sure this is it Hungarian or Romanian. This whole stake thing was basically they turned the body over so that it was facing the ground.
Yeah.
So that if it did crawl its way, it would only crawl its way down.
Okay. Yeah.
And the spike was an iron spike, and the spike was there driven through them to keep them in the ground. It was not like to kill them in a sort of turn to dust kind of way.
Yeah.
So there are so many rules that you can pick and choose when you're making your vampire stuff. So it is always nice when you sort of go, okay, so what vampires do we have here?
What type are we dealing with?
Just the sun. I mean, most vampire stuff, it's usually sunlight and decapitation is the main.
Yeah, and then occasionally lesser than that is like the cross and garlic, and it goes down the scale.
I think as the world became more.
I think that fire is just generally universally
fire
the best weapon on everything. It's just like that's universal.
Kill it with fire.
Like I like that even in Alien, they're like, this alien's invincible, and like, yeah, but fire still probably scare it away. I mean, it's fire. No one likes fire, well, unless they're cold. No one likes having fire thrown at them anyway.
Yeah.
So
set on fire really puts a dampener on your day.
It certainly does. Well, that's
There's a Netflix movie coming out, I think this week, called Night Teeth.
Yes.
Which is another vampire one, which I will definitely watch.
It looks fun
for the next show.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you started watching, or have you watched any of Midnight Mass yet?
I have not.
Okay.
No. my wife wants to see it, so I'm
no,
waiting.
that's cool. So I'm only 2 episodes in, so I think we should wait and do that together.
Yeah. I did my Dave, my mate Dave. He's seen it all and he absolutely loved it.
Well, I will say I finished episode 2 and I absolutely love it so far.
Yeah.
So I need to put that into context. I think there's like 6 or so episodes, so there's a little more to go.
It's
but
one of the shorter ones.
it's very promising so far.
I did watch Raised by Wolves. But
yeah.
I'll maybe I'll talk about that next time.
Sure.
That is actually a very good series. I really enjoyed that. So
of course, next time, it's time for us to start Halloween.
Yes.
Curse of Frankenstein, I believe.
We are going to do the Curse of Frankenstein.
Excellent. Our Hammer reviews are our most popular reviews usually.
Yeah.
So that's good. Although Brotherhood of the Wolf is getting up there. People seem to like that one.
I did notice that Brotherhood is steadily climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird. Some of the ones that I thought might get more reviews of not. Yes.
It is odd. There's no logic to it.
No.
I don't know. But yeah, Curse of Frankenstein, looking forward to reviewing that. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Some great sequels there as well.
Absolutely.
We'll probably get to one day.
I will actually mention the on Amazon. They've just acquired a load of Elvira Frontier Presents movies.
Have they?
Yeah, and they've got like The Terror and The Brain That Wouldn't Die. And they've
is
got
that definitely Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
Okay, because they've been pushing Elvira on Shudder an awful lot lately.
Yes.
So it's separate from that, is it? Is it actually on Amazon?
It's old ones, so it's
ones.
Oh, sweet. It's ones that she did about 10 years ago, I think.
Oh, cool.
So it's I started watching the Satanic Rites of Dracula one.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I had forgotten just how fucking awful
that series, it started off so strong, and it does.
You can kind of say that about all Hammer stuff.
You can. You certainly
can.
Can.
Like, pretty strong, and then disintegrate.
The only ones that I think, in my opinion, got better were probably the Quatermass, because I think the Quatermass and the Pit was better casted than the other 2 Quatermass movies they did.
Yeah.
So that actually improved. They peaked at the end with Quatermass, but with everything else, you're right. They tended to go downhill.
Yeah.
But
when you start sort of, I always feel sort of sorry for Ralph Bates.
Yeah.
Because he's actually a pretty good actor.
He is, yeah.
He does, but he kind of got sort of introduced when they started phasing out all the big actors, like Tushin and Lee, and he sort of took over some of them, because he became sort of Frankenstein, didn't he, after Cushion, and they just don't hold up as well, and it's through no fault of him.
No, not at all.
I really love him in Dr. Jekyll's Sister Hyde.
Yes,
I love that.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
It's not a great movie, but I really enjoy
I've got a real soft spot for
I do
those movies.
But I sort of feel sorry for him, because it always feels like, and I think, genuinely he was sort of taking it like, oh, it's got Ralph Bates in it. It's like when it's sort of like, oh, there's a Hammer movie on. Oh, it's Ralph Bates. I sort of feel sorry for him for that. It's like, like I said, it's not his fault, because he's still good. It's just that
he's just not Peter Cushing.
No.
It's difficult, tough act to follow, that one. But yeah, so next time we will be reviewing Curse of Frankenstein, and very excited for that.
So did you want to talk about the Raccoon City trailer?
Oh, I forgot all about that. Yeah, before we head off, it looks awful. It looks dreadful. So they've released a trailer. Is it Welcome to Raccoon City? I think it's called Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. A movie very seemingly quite closely, although they do change a few things even in the trailer, reasonably closely based on the Resident Evil games. Certainly the first 3. And there are like shots ripped directly from the games. Some of the shots. But it looks like a reasonably high budget fan production. Is probably what I would say.
When they dropped the pictures,
those pictures were so bad.
They just look like really bad cosplayers.
Yeah, and that's what the movie looks like. It looks like some friends have got together and put together a reasonable amount of money as fans to make a fan movie.
But I've seen like cosplayers that have done so much better.
Yeah.
You just think, what? Why? Why does it look so fucking cheap?
Yeah, it looks awful. That monster they've got in there, the CG monster, that looks like PS2 graphics. It's like, what is this? What am I looking at?
When the dog turned
and the dog, the dog's pretty ropey as well.
Terrible.
It's weird to me though. Like, I mean, you rightly said, even though the movie's coming out in December, maybe the effect shots are unfinished, and maybe they are. That's a reasonable argument to make. But why would you put it in the trailer then? Just don't show it. Because there's plenty of other footage that was in there that looked okay. I mean, to be honest, the whole thing looks like really bad cosplaying movie anyway.
Yeah, it's no. I mean, the thing is the Resident Evil movies, they became their own thing.
Yeah, they're very much their own thing.
They're totally their own thing, which I'm kind of fine with.
Yeah, I always felt like the first movie could have happened alongside the Resident Evil movies, and kind of maybe you can kind of get away with that. But certainly after the second one, it's like, okay, this is definitely a very different continuity now.
Which is
fine.
It's fine. I mean, most of those movies are so silly and over the top that they're just enjoyable for that.
Yeah.
And it's almost always nice. It's pretty much always nice to see Mila Jovovich running around kicking ass. I'm always up for that. So that's that's always a good thing. But I was genuinely hoping at some point we'd get a really decent
Resident Evil movie.
I haven't seen the cartoon that's on the animation that's on Netflix yet.
No, I think some of those animations are meant to be pretty good, but I've never watched them.
Yeah,
because there's a bunch of them. I think it's like about 4 of them or something. I think some of them are meant to be really good. So yeah, I've not seen it, but
because I know there's a series coming out.
There is a series coming out, yeah.
And they've pretty much, I think they've race swapped a lot of people, and it looks like it's going to be mostly ladies in it.
Okay.
And it again, that didn't look from the. I've only seen pictures for that one. That didn't look that.
Yeah, I think I've seen pictures. The thing is, I think I've seen pictures from it and assumed that was also part of this movie.
Yeah,
but it's not. So that's like, it's like a Wesker series, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
And it's like Wesker's daughters or something. Is that right? Am I right in thinking that?
I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah.
Or at least one adult or daughter of Wesker. But yeah, it all looked a bit there.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like, particularly as you go beyond the first game, really. Well, even the first game, it gets so ridiculous. The plot is so ludicrous that it's like, I don't know if you can really make this into a film, really, because it is really silly. I mean, and I love those games. Trust me, I love them. But
the last one I played was the one with the. In the house with the family.
Oh, I love that one. Resident Evil 7 is great fun.
Family.
That's great.
I didn't complete it because I was borrowing it. But there was some genuinely fucking hell.
So that's the thing. Those newer ones you could definitely make. You could make that into a movie. The trouble is that it's so derivative of things like Texas Chainsaw and stuff like that. But you basically be making a movie that's like
danger just doing
Texas Chainsaw. Yeah. But I mean, Resident Evil 2 kind of lends itself a little bit better to probably doing like a somewhat serious movie, but
yeah. And from what I've seen of the latest one, even though I know she's not in it that much, I love that. Is it Lady Dimitrescu?
Oh yes, the very tall vampire lady.
Very tall vampire lady is like, I'm totally on board for that.
Yeah, I've not played it yet. I'm waiting for it to come down in price. It's like ludicrously priced.
Yeah.
Like a lot of games are. But some games come up in sales and some don't, and Resident Evil 8 still is like 60 quid or something. It's like, I'm not paying 60 quid for a game. You're having a laugh. Like,
that's how we feel about I'm desperate to play Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, that looks great.
I do not want to fork out 60 quid for it.
I'm like a £15 maximum per game these days, because I'll just wait for things to come on sale. I'll wait for things to come on sale. I don't care. But I'll stretch if I'll pay like 30 quid if it's something really good. If it's like that's really good, but no.
There are certain games that I'm willing to pay full price for if it's if I'm.
I will like, if it's a franchise I love, but then even then,
I bought that straight away. I got that.
Yeah.
And I did do that with Cyberpunk. Maybe
well, see, that was your mistake. Now, Cyberpunk I really like now. I actually think it's a really good game.
I still think I think it's great.
I was praising it on Icons a while back. I think it's great, but I got that very cheap. Now, I made the mistake, though. This is turning into an Icons episode randomly. I made that mistake with MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. I have an undying love for the MechWarrior series. So as soon as that game was available for pre-order, I pre-ordered it. One of the few games I've ever pre-ordered. And it was rubbish. It is now a fantastic game. Like 2 years after it came out, they've added enough to it, free DLCs and all that, fixed it up. It's an amazing game. And I'm still like, I should have just waited because I could have got it way cheaper. And now it's fantastic. I love playing. I was playing it this week, but I always think back to that launch and how disappointing it was at launch. It's like, I think it wasn't terrible, but it just,
increasingly sort of familiar thing, isn't it? I think there's so many games now that are released broken.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though.
I know people lose their shit, and I just think, isn't it just standard now?
It is standard now. It's the way it works because you can always get a download to fix whatever, so they'll fix it later. Back in the day, you used to have to put it on a CD or on a cartridge, and that's it. You're not going to update it.
There's nothing else you could do.
So that's it, and then that was it. So they made sure that it worked because if it was broken, very hard to fix. I remember fixing PC games. I think Ultima 8 was very broken, and they did fixes for that, but that was like early internet, go online, try and get a disc sent to you, or try and get on the internet and find not easy at all. But nowadays it's too easy, and I think that's why they've got very lazy. And also these games are so big now, they're crazy. Like it's crazy, the scale and stuff now is insane. But anyway, Resident Evil looks rubbish.
Yeah.
Welcome to Raccoon City. Looks like an awful fan movie to me.
Really bad.
But anyway, we'll see you next week for Curse of Frankenstein as we return to horror. Hammer. We were in Hammer territory a while ago, not too long back. So, Hound of the Baskervilles. So yeah, cool. Well, yes, we'll see you next week to kick off our Halloween celebrations. I believe it is a month of horror films for us now.
Yeah.
With our reviews interspersed, obviously.
Yeah, I mean.
But when we're doing a movie, it's going to be a horror movie. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But cool. Well, take care, everybody, and thank you for listening.